celebration of the 40th anniversary of the Commission on Filipinos Overseas and in partnership with the Multicultural Helping House Society, Pathways to Canada, we are pleased to present Usapang Canada sa panahon ng pandemya. My name is Paul Vincent Avicilia. I'm a Senior Immigrant Services Officer of the Commission on Filipinos Overseas, and I will be your host for this webinar. To know more about CFO, please watch this video.
I'm in this country for greener pasture. Although I have a good job in the Philippines, but I like it better here.
Never dreamed of coming to this country, pero I think God has other plans for me.
I'm in this country because my parents brought me here for a better life.
Nagsimula ako bilang field salesman at kalaunan ay na-promote ako bilang spare parts manager.
Ang isang brother-in-law ko, nauna siya dito sa Australia and then nagsabi sa akin mas maganda raw dito sa Australia. So sinubukan namin mag-apply.
Susan Conlan ho.
Malcolm Conlan.
Nakilala ko siya ayun, nagkapamilya.
Filipinos are caring and fantastic people.
little girl without a mom was difficult. Because I was not there to help my kids, I sent as much money as I could. I was separated from my 4 sisters who moved to Canada.
As you saw in the video, many of our kababayans have left our country in search of work opportunities, others to join their family, some to study abroad, others move to escape conflict, climate change, and natural disasters. We are now living in an unusual environment due to the ongoing crisis. But even before this pandemic, migrating to another country always posed challenge for the migrants. When governments around the world started implementing quarantine protocols, we saw many migrants were being forcibly returned to their home countries, and many were stranded in airport terminals. However, we also saw during this pandemic the contribution of Filipino migrants who provided critical labor support in health sectors. Yet migrants in general have been frequently excluded from health and socio-economic protections of their host countries. Our objective for this webinar is to give you information about Philippine government requirement for those who will be leaving our country to live or work permanently in Canada and give you update on Canada's settlement program. Next slide, please. For our first topic, my colleague in CFO will be discussing the mandatory pre-departure registration for all immigrants. Since we are in community quarantine and all CFO offices are temporarily closed, what options are available for you to get CFO sticker and certificate? So our first speaker will discuss that in a little while. Now for our second speaker, she will be focusing her discussion on the day of your arrival in Canada. She'll discuss the quarantine protocol being implemented in Canada. And for parents who will be traveling with children, our second speaker will also give an update on how school system works in Canada during this time. After that, we will have our first open forum. Then we will have a video testimony from a Filipino immigrant to be followed by our third speaker, who will be discussing an important topic, financial literacy and tax system in Canada. And for our last speaker, she will discuss the assistance being provided by the Canada government for immigrants arriving during this pandemic. And last, we will have our open forum. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to message us in the chat box or email or send us email at info@cfo.gov.ph. Let me repeat, info@cfo.gov.ph. And we will collate all your questions for our open forum later. For those questions that will not be discussed during the open forum, we will still reply to your message in the chat box. Okay? Now, without further ado, let me introduce to you our first speaker. He is a pre-departure orientation officer at the Commission on Filipinos Overseas. He has been working with the Commission for more than 17 years as an Immigrant Services Officer 2, handling frontline service. Prior to his work with CFO, he worked as an OFW in Saudi Arabia as an IT specialist for 4 years. He graduated from AMA Computer University with a degree major in computer science and has academic units for Masters in Government Management at the Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila. Let's welcome Mr. Alan Paul M. Ducusin, Immigrant Services Officer 2, Commission on Filipinos Overseas.
Okay, thank you, Paul, for that brief introduction. Magandang tanghali po, mga audience natin, mga kababayan. Kayo po ba'y nagpaplanong pumunta ng Canada? So ito pong ating webinar will help you from departure to arrival. So ang topic po that will be discussed by me is with regards to the pre-departure services of the Commission on Filipinos Overseas, and how are we coping with the current pandemic that we are experiencing? What are the new norms or new normal procedure that the CFO is following? And of course, we're going to discuss also the pre-departure requirements. So first of all, kung hindi niyo po naabutan yung aming video presentation kanina, let me just reiterate kung sino-sino po ba ang mga kliyente ng aming office, no? So next slide, please. So, okay, next slide. Okay, so the clientele of CFO are those Filipino permanent resident abroad, Filipinos overseas who have become naturalized or have filed dual citizenship, and of course, the Filipino spouses or partners of foreign nationals. Also, the descendant of Filipino overseas, Filipino youth abroad, and exchange visitor program participant or those with having J1 visas going to the US. And of course, those undergoing cultural exchange, the au pairs bound for Europe. So these are the CFO clientele. Now, the CFO provides services or pre-departure seminars for these clientele. So what are the pre-departure programs that we are giving the immigrants? So first of all, next slide, please. We conduct the pre-departure orientation seminar for immigrants ages 20 to 59 years old. And normally, the pre-departure program discussed or covers topics such as travel regulation, immigration procedures, cultural differences, settlement concerns, employment and social security concerns, and rights and obligations of Filipino immigrants. Normally, our top countries of destination among immigrants are the US, Canada, and Japan. Now, for those Filipino who is married or a spouse or a partner of a foreign national, we have the guidance and counseling program. The guidance counseling program is provided for Filipinos with a foreign spouse or partner with or without visa. Because some of the Filipinos are just applying for passport, they don't have a visa yet, they can still attend the guidance and counseling program, or what we call the GCP. It is a one-on-one counseling for marriage migrant who may have potential probable victims of trafficking in the guise of marriage. Kasi may mga kababayan po tayo na nag-aasawa without knowing na sila pala ay magiging mga victims ng human trafficking. And then we also address cultural orientation during the guidance and counseling, and prevent marriage migrant from being exploited. Last 2018, we served around 17,219 marriage migrants. And by the way, these programs that we are conducting prior to this pandemic, we conduct it physically at our office. But since we're under the enhanced community quarantine and we observe the protocol on social distancing or physical distancing, we suspend all these seminars except for the guidance counseling, which is done through a telecounseling or teleconferencing system, which is I'll discuss later, part of the new normal. And then next, the guidance and counseling is based on the Department Orders number 2894. Next slide, please. And the Department Orders 11-97, or implementing rules and regulation, or RA 8239, or the passport law. So baka hindi alam po ng ating mga kababayan, mga asawa ng partner or asawa or partner ng foreign national, na they are required to attend this guidance counseling program from the CFO or GCP, because this is a requirement by the DFA in order for you to secure a passport or sometimes even a visa. It is one of the requirements. And again, since the anti-human trafficking law was expanded, it is now the RA 10364, or the expanded Anti-Trafficking Act. Attendance through the guidance counseling program is mandatory for all. So tandaan natin po, mandatory po ang guidance counseling if you are a partner or a spouse of a foreign national based on our Philippine law. Now, aside from the pre-departure orientation seminar, PDOS, and the guidance counseling program or GCP, we also conduct a seminar for our minor migrants, ages 13 to 19, and we call it the peer counseling program. This is actually provided or designed to discuss issues on young migrants, especially on their arrival in their host country. Most topics covered are normally anxiety, language barrier, rejection, discrimination, and even bullying. So marami tayong nababalitaan ng mga kababayan nating Filipino, ng mga 13 to 19 years old teenagers na nabubuli po sila sa kanilang mga foreign school abroad. So yun po yung mga topics na kino-cover. And again, just like the PDOS and the guidance counseling program of the CFO, the peer counseling program is also suspended. So hindi na po muna pinag-a-attend ng PDOS and guidance and peer counseling ang mga immigrant natin, but they need to register. So mamaya ipapaliwanag ko po ang new normal procedure po ng CFO on registration. Pero again, the guidance counseling is not suspended. No? Yung physical conduct po nito is suspended at our office, but we do a telecounseling. So yung telecounseling po is done via teleconference po. Okay? Now, everybody's speaking about new norms. So the CFO also has a new normal procedure. Next slide, please. Since the resumption of the operation of the Commission on Filipinos Overseas last June 1, 2020, okay, although we suspend the physical conduct of our PDOS, guidance counseling, and peer counseling physically, we provided a means for our client to do a contactless registration. So it means po na hindi na po kayo kailangan pumunta sa opisina namin upang magrehistro kayo kung kayo po ay nakatanggap na ng immigrant visa ninyo. Meron pong dinevelop na system ang CFO, and it's called the Overseas Filipino Commission on Filipinos Overseas Online Registration System, or commonly known as OFCOURS. So tandaan po natin, the OFCOURS was created so that our client will no longer go physically to our office to register or do it personally. And this is in line with the Republic Act number 11499, or the Bayanihan to Heal As One Act. And of course, it is also in line with Republic Act number 11032, or the Ease of Doing Business and Efficient Government Service Delivery Act. So mas pinadali na po ang sistema dahil nga tayo we're under pandemic po, ginawa po yung tinatawag nating OFCOURS. So we encourage po our immigrants that if you receive your visa, please follow the new normal procedure ng CFO on registration. And you do it by accessing the online registration system ng CFO, which is called the of course. Okay? Now, under the new normal policy, paano ba ginagawa ang registration online? So if you go to our website, the www.cfo.gov.ph, you may see a poster, a blue poster and a pink poster. So let us discuss first what is the blue poster all about. The blue poster po, if you are a first time attending the guidance and counseling program, and you are a spouse or a partner of a foreign national, you go to this poster and click it. And those who have attended the guidance and counseling program, but the status is on hold, probably due to the fact that they haven't submitted all the requirement needed by the counselor, assigned counselor, they will be also going to this poster. So once you click this poster and created the account, you have to send your documents to the assigned counselor. And then the assigned counselor will call you for your schedule for the telecounseling. So once done, you will be informed that you need to pay the registration fee, and you may be able to print your temporary, of course, certificate. The temporary, of course, certificate is only valid until December 31, 2020. But if you have paid the registration fee and the courier, we may also send you the original copy of your guidance counseling certificate or CFO registration sticker as well if you have already an immigrant visa. So this is under the blue poster. Now, if you have already a visa, for example, you have attended the guidance counseling seminar and you possess a guidance counseling certificate, and also you are an immigrant sponsored by your relative, then you have to go to the pink poster. Next slide, please. So as we can see in the next slide, the pink poster caters to immigrants, visa holder, partner or spouse of foreign national who have attended the guidance counseling with a guidance counseling certificate and an immigrant visa as well. And also those immigrants that are sponsored by their family members abroad. So kasama din po dito sa pink poster yung mga tinatawag po nating exempted. And who are the exempted? Sila po yung mga minor children under 12 years old and below. Kasama din po yung mga senior citizen, 60 years old and above. Dito po sila pupunta sa pink poster. And kasama din po dito sa pink poster yung magre-register na mga mag-undergo ng peer counseling seminar or what we call the peer counseling for 13 to 19 years old. So lahat po sila, dito rin sila pupunta doon sa pink poster. So I hope we made this clear to our listener kung saan po sila pupunta. Kasi minsan may mga nalilito po kung saan sila mag-register. But just follow the step-by-step procedure in our website. And if you don't get it, you may also email or call us for guidance. And of course, you may want to also to go to our FB page and chat whatever is your concern. Our FB page is very active. Actually, we have an average of 90% response time. So, and every time you want to ask questions with regards to your registration, feel free to visit our FB page, and our officers and staff will cater to your needs as soon as possible. Now, there are reminders using the of course system. So next slide, please. So once you registered in the of course, you need to send the copies of your document, copy of your visa, your passport, and the proof of your payment if you have paid your registration fee and courier fee as well. So a couple of of our staff will call you, and as you can see in the slide, there are 4 email addresses that might call you or might send a message to you. And starting July 10, you may also want to keep track if you have filed a courier service so that your CFO sticker and guidance counseling certificate will be will be delivered to you by a courier. You can keep track of that through the website www.express.com.ph/track-and-trace/, or you may want to call this number 8552-4792 for follow-up. And then, as you can see on the right side, the payment is also very easy. We made it easy for you. So you can pay your registration fee and courier fee at any land bank bank. And the account name is the Commission on Filipinos Overseas, and the account number is also mentioned in the flyer or in our website. You need to pay your registration fee and the courier fee. The courier fee will be depending on your location of delivery. So kindly follow this step. Not only via land bank, you may also pay your registration fee at any BDO, Union Bank, PayMaya, and currently we are talking to some payment centers to expand or to make it easy how to pay your registration fee. We're talking about Bayad Center, but it is under still negotiation. But we're expanding our payment centers. So for the immigrants, especially now that we are under the MECQ, so you can do you can do your payment in all of these banks and pay centers. You can also do a bank-to-bank transaction. For example, if your bank is not mentioned here, you may want to transfer your payment to land bank through a bank-to-bank transaction. So these are the 5 steps in paying your registration fee. Now, let us go to another topic. So once you are registered with the Commission on Filipinos Overseas and you have your registration sticker or your temporary guidance, temporary of-course certificate, you may now prepare your travel documents for your departure. And by the way, let me just remind you that for those who have printed the temporary, of course, certificates, which is valid only until July 31, 2020, you may now reprint your temporary, of course, in our website. So the temporary, of course, certificate will be extended until December 31, 2020. So take note of that. You may reprint your previous OF, of course, temporary certificate in our website. So it will be extended until December 31, 2020. Now, going back to the travel documents, prior to your departure to the airport, please be sure that you have your CFO immigrant registration sticker if you are an immigrant, and you must also bring your guidance and counseling certificate if you are a partner or spouse of a foreign national. And you may either bring these documents or the CFO temporary certificate. All of these documents are valid documents recognized by the Bureau of Immigration. You also need not forget to bring your valid passport. Make sure that your passport is valid 6 months and above prior to departure. And of course, your resident or immigrant visa. If you're going to Canada, aside from your Canadian immigrant visa, you need also to bring your confirmation of permanent resident, or what we call the COPR. Now, if you're traveling with a minor, be sure also to check if you need to apply for a DSWD travel clearance. This is only required if the minor will be traveling alone, unaccompanied by unaccompanied by any of his or her biological or adoptive parents. So sometimes nakakalimutan po natin na mag-apply nito, at yan po ay maaaring maging cause ng delay ng ating flights. But if the child will be traveling alone, take note, and the child is sponsored by a parent abroad, there is no need to apply for a DSWD travel clearance. Titingin ko po, kung ang bata po ay naglalakbay mag-isa or kasama ng ibang tao pero sponsored po siya ng magulang abroad, siya po ang nagpetisyon sa kanyang anak. Ito po ay hindi na nangangailangan ng DSWD travel clearance. Now, another document that you need to prepare is if you are a former government employee, especially if you are under the military or police, PNP, you need to secure a clearance from your office so that you will be allowed to leave the country. Kasi pag hindi po natin ginawa ito, baka hindi po nila alam ang status natin, baka tayo po ay AWOL or absence without leave na employee. So it's better to secure clearance if you are a government employee prior to your departure. So yan na po yung mga documents na kailangan nating i-secure. Now, sa next slide po, ipakita ko lang po sa inyo yung document na ini-issue ng Commission on Filipinos Overseas. Next slide, please. So on your left, as you can see on your screen, yan po yung sample ng ating CFO registration sticker. Ito po yung original na document na dinidikit namin sa inyong passport. You affix this on your passport if you have an immigrant visa. Now, on the center screen, you will find at the bottom the screenshot of the guidance and counseling certificate. Ito naman po yung binibigay namin after our client underwent the guidance and counseling seminar. So binibigyan po namin sila ng guidance counseling certificate. Ang guidance counseling certificate po and yung CFO registration sticker ay wala pong expiry date. There's no expiration for this document. Now, for example, nag-apply po kayo ng inyong document via courier, to be sent by courier, and hindi po siya aabot sa inyong flight. So you can use the Overseas Filipino CFO registration online registration system certificate, temporary certificate. Yan po yung nasa gitna sa taas. Yan po. You can use that if yung inyo pong ni-request na original document to be sent by courier ay hindi umabot on your flight. As you can see, nandyan po yung name niyo with the barcode, and yung nagpiprint po ngayon ng aming temporary certificates, of course, will have a validity until December 31, 2020. So ulitin ko po, itong mga documents na to ay valid documents and recognized by the Bureau of Immigration on your departure. Okay, next slide naman. Pakita po natin ang sample po ng visa sa Canada. Yan po yung ating visa. Please be sure po to check, lalo na po priority yung expiry date ng inyong visa. You need to leave the country prior to the expiry date. As much as possible, you give it a few days so you can well prepare for your travel. And then check nyo rin po lagi ang mga data sa inyong visa. If there are any discrepancy or errors, you may report it directly to the Canadian Embassy. Now, aside from your visa, again, you have been issued also what we call the COPR or Confirmation of Permanent Resident, which is on the right side ng ating screen. Yan po ang itsura niyan. Also, carefully check yung mga details. Kung meron pong mali, agad i-report po ito sa ating Canadian Embassy. Now, next slide po. Ito naman po yung sample ng clearance, as I mentioned, for elected government employees. Yan po, sa kaliwa po. Iba-iba po ang clearance natin. It can be a service record. It can be a written document approved by your head. At yung nasa kanan naman po, yan naman po yung sample ng DSWD travel clearance for minor. Again, you will only need this if yung bata po will be traveling without any of the parents. Unless po the parents, the parent abroad who's the one sponsored the child, no, na minor. Okay? So be sure po that yung mga documents na diniscuss natin will be checked carefully bago po kayo pumunta sa airport. Now, don't worry po dun sa mga makakapunta po sa ibang bansa, especially in Canada. We have a support network. So let us go to the next slide. So here are the support network, the primary support network of our kababayans are mainly the Philippine Embassy and Consulate. So ano po ba ang pinoprovide na services ng ating mga embassies and consulate abroad in Canada specifically? So they have passport and visa services. So for example, nag-expire po ang visa ninyo, you may go to our Philippine Embassy in Canada or Consulate General to renew your passport. And they also assist and protect Filipino national po abroad. If you want to apply for report of marriage, report of death, report of birth, you can also go to our embassy to provide you registration and documentation. They also do legal services, by the way. So if you want to also translation services, notarial services, you can go to our Philippine Embassy. And of course, if you have applied for Canadian citizenship and you want to reacquire your Filipino citizenship by a dual citizenship, you may also go to our embassy and they will be able to help you acquire the dual citizenship. So as you can see, nandiyan po, meron tayong mga embassy and consulate. No? So ang embassy po natin ay nasa Ontario. And then we have also Consulate General in Calgary, Alberta, and Toronto, Ontario, and of course in Vancouver, British Columbia. So yan po. Now, with regards to the support network, please watch a short clip with regards to the support network in Canada. So let's watch this and I will resume my discussion later on. Okay, thank you for that short clip. Now, another topic that we're going to discuss in line with this pre-departure is the prohibited items which will be implemented by Canada. So, bago po tayo umalis, make sure po that we don't bring these prohibited items. Next slide, please. So, among those you don't need to bring are prohibited to bring are firearms, explosive, fireworks and ammunition, narcotics other than prescribed medicine, meat, dairy products, fresh fruit and vegetable, plants, flowers, and soil, endangered species, animals, and leather, skins, and feathers, cultural properties, including antique and cultural objects, or other historical items with historical significance to the country of origin. And if you are a smoker, you might bring around maximum of 200 cigarettes, and you must pay tax on the excess amount. Take note that those who will bring cigarettes are only allowed ages 19 and above, especially if you're going to Quebec, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. And you may also bring liquor, not more than 1.5 liters. Okay, so those are things you need to remember in terms of the prohibited and restricted items in Canada. Now, also at the airport, be sure po that you have filled up a departure card. Next slide, please. As you can see, this is the sample of the departure card. So one of the very important things that you need to present to the immigration, aside from your passport and visa, is the departure card. Now, where do we get the departure card? The departure card can be requested on any information counters at the airport, check-in counters, even travel agencies and airline offices provides the Philippine Bureau of Immigration departure card. Now, if you are also traveling to Canada and you want to bring settlement funds, especially those under the provincial nomination program and skilled migrant workers, you want to bring travel funds or settlement funds, please take note that there is a money laundering law in the Philippines and even in Canada. So next slide, you might want to declare if you're bringing $10,000 and above, or its equivalent in other currencies, and it will be checked at the Bureau of Immigration on your departure. Now, you may download the form, the BSP Foreign Currency Declaration form, at the said link, as you can see on the screen. And if you are arriving in Canada with the same amount of money, 10,000 Canadian dollars, you also need to declare the said amount on your entry to Canada. So visit the website cbsa.gc.ca to download the form to be filled up. Now, a few reminders: if you will be departing from the Philippines, the preparation time will be 4 hours before the scheduled flight. Next slide, please. You have to be at the airport at least 4 hours prior to your flight. And then you submit yourself to baggage and security check. Next step, you will be checking in at your airline counter. Please don't forget to keep your boarding pass and baggage claim tab. And of course, the visa documents should not be put in your check-in luggage. Normally, in-advise ko po yung ating mga client to provide a document bag for all of these important documents in order na hindi po siya mawala and easily accessible during the time na mag-check-in po kayo sa immigration counter. And then present your CFO sticker if you are an immigrant. If you are a spouse of a foreign national, then you might want to bring your guidance counseling certificate, or your temporary certificate will be also honored by the immigration. And you need last step will be waiting at the lunch. But a few reminders, as we have an airline protocol, passengers who have canceled or changed the date of their flights will not be allowed entry at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport, as well as passenger without complete boarding documents. So yun lang po ang ating katandaan sa airline protocol. Now next slide. Okay, so since we are under the pandemic pa din, medyo strict po ang implementation ng AITF po na with regards to health concern. So a few reminders: make sure po on your departure, bring at least 5 pieces of face mask. Kailangan po natin yan, and if you want to dispose of it, please dispose it through a designated trash bin. Next, you also need to bring alcohol or hand sanitizer on your departure. Allowed po na packet size is around 10 pieces of alcohol and sanitizer. And also, prior to entering the airport, please be ensured that you wear your face mask properly. Kasi minsan yung iba nagsusot ng face mask, nakalabas yung ilong or hindi fully covered yung mouth natin. So dapat fully covered ang mouth and nose prior to entry to the airport. And of course, once you are at the airport, please observe physical or social distancing. So hindi po tayo pwedeng magdikit-dikit sa mga tao, otherwise tayo po ay sistahin ng mga guards na nagbabantay sa airport. Okay, so this ends my presentation. Back to you, Paul.
Okay, thank you, Alan. Again, for those who are watching us on the CFO Facebook page, if you have questions, please type it in the chat box. We will answer your inquiries after our second speaker. Now, let me introduce our second speaker. She's one of the program coordinator of Multicultural Helping House Society, Pathways to Canada, an IT graduate, but has found real love when she took up education course. She came from a family of public servants that nurtured her value of making a difference, especially to indigenous people. Let's welcome Ms. Connie B. Catanes, Program Coordinator, MHHS Pathways to Canada.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul, for the introduction. First, I would like to give you an update about the COVID-19 in Canada as of today, August 7. The number of people tested is 4.3 million, There are cases of 118,561. That's the total case. The active case is 6,489, and there are more than 103,000 recovered, and deaths of 8,906. Okay, so that is the update. We move on to the next slide, please? Yes, so as Sir Paul said, I'm from Pathways to Canada, and our mission is to fully prepare and empower Filipino migrants to Canada by providing comprehensive information to bridge the gap of their migration needs, help them connect to their new society, and develop firm courses of actions to achieve long life goals even before they set foot to Canada. Our vision, next slide please, is to see Filipino immigrants to Canada successfully. They must be successfully prepared, settled, and integrated into the Canadian community where they see themselves as assets by being globally competitive and embracing multiculturalism as they fully participate in the Canadian life. That is the Pathways to Canada and of course the Mission on Filipinos Overseas goal. Now, there are a lot of questions we're getting about the airport and landing procedures at this time of pandemic. Next slide, please. As for the question, who are allowed to enter Canada? They are allowed to enter Canada, or you are allowed to enter Canada if you are a Canadian citizen, permanent resident of Canada, or you are one of the immediate family members. Regular travel document requirements by air travel and entry to Canada continue to apply. Foreign nationals who are exempted from the travel restrictions must continue to meet all travel document requirements under the IRPA. IRPA stands for Immigration and Refugee Protection Act and the Immigration and Refugee Protection. Canadian citizens, permanent residents, and protected persons continue to be permitted to enter Canada. Of course, they are subjected to health screening measures. What's the definition of immediate family member? If you're a spouse, if you're a common law partner, and if you have dependent children. It can be your parents or step-parents, a guardian or tutor. It can also be the parents or step-parents of your spouse or common law partner. Next slide, please. So what are the documents that you have to show as the immediate family member of the citizen or the PR? First one would be Canadian passport, proof of Canadian citizenship such as citizenship certificate, Canadian permanent resident card, Canadian permanent resident travel document, visa exempt foreign passport, and IRCC special authorization for Canadian citizens. You also have to present documentation showing your relationship to that family member. What are those documents? First one, of course, if you're a spouse, you have to show marriage certificate or a proof of common law status. How are you going to prove that? You have to show documents that you share the same address or you have similar address. Birth certificate, confirmation of permanent residence for the family class, COPR. Other document or documents supporting an immediate family connection. For example, correspondence from IRCC showing spousal sponsorship in progress or documentation indicating a common residential address. So paper and electronic copies are acceptable. Please note that the one I mentioned are just examples. So an officer may request or accept other documents as they deem necessary. Recommended documentation for travel. Documentation showing their immediate family members' temporary resident status and their relationship to that family member, and written authorization from IRCC. You should have a copy of the family member's work permit, study permit, temporary resident permit, or visitor record, relationship with a family member, you have to show that. Written authorization from an IRCC officer. So IRCC will provide a letter to the foreign national to demonstrate to the airline that they are authorized to travel to Canada under its exemption. In situations where foreign nationals arrives at the port of entry with an IRCC authorization, this is to prove that this is under family reunification. Okay, next slide, please. Oh, for the check-in, if you're going to check in within 48 hours of arrival, you have to download ArriveCan app. This is downloadable in the app stores or Google Play stores. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. Please leave on that slide. Sorry, can we put it back? Yes. Before you arrive in Canada, you must have a quarantine plan. What is this quarantine plan and how long should it go? There is a mandatory quarantine plan put in place by the government of Canada. This is an emergency measure to slow the introduction of and spread of COVID-19 in Canada. You must quarantine yourself for 14 days, provide contact information, and monitor yourself for symptoms, subject to the minimizing the risk of exposure to COVID-19 in Canada order. So this is mandatory isolation number 3. Your compliance with this order is subject to verification and enforcement. So what should you prepare? You must ensure you have a suitable place of quarantine that has the necessities of life. Go directly to your place of quarantine without delay and stay there for 14 days from the date of arrival in Canada. You must wear a suitable mask or face covering while in transit. Practice physical distancing at all times. Use private transportation, such as private vehicle, to reach your place of quarantine if possible. Avoid contact with others while in transit. You have to remain in the vehicle as much as possible. If you need gas, pay at the pump. If you need food, use drive-through. If you need to use a rest area, put on your mask and be mindful of the physical distancing and good hygienic practices. What are the good hygienic practices? Wash your hands regularly. You have your sanitizer with you. And within that 14 days, you have to monitor your health. For fever, cough, difficulty in breathing. So if you start experiencing any symptoms of COVID-19, cough, shortness of breath, a fever equal to or greater than 38 degrees, or signs of fever, shivering, flushed skin, or excessive sweating, you have to isolate yourself from the others. Contact your local public health authority and follow their instructions. If there is a symptom of COVID-like symptom, you have to isolate yourself for another 14 days. So iba ulit na 14 days pa ito, you are going to start again. If you develop any signs and symptoms, including those, what I said earlier, you have to check with a doctor. You have to check your condition with a doctor. To help reduce the spread of COVID-19, avoid going out. Go directly to your place of quarantine and don't make any stops while in transit. What can you do in the another set of 14-day quarantine? You may not leave your place of quarantine unless it is to seek medical attention. You may not have any guests, even if you're outside, and always stay 2 meters apart from the other people. What is permitted during your quarantine period? You may use shared spaces or private outdoor spaces in place of quarantine, provided you avoid contact with others who did not travel with you. Disinfect spaces after use. Wear a suitable non-medical mask or face covering if a distance of 2 meters from others residing in your place of quarantine cannot be maintained. So always observe a 2-meter distance. What is recommended during the quarantine period? Wash your hands often with soap and water or use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer containing at least 60% of alcohol. Avoid touching your face. So iiwasan pa natin yan. Cover your mouth and nose with your arm when coughing or sneezing. You will be called from 1-888-336-7735 to verify your compliance during your 14-day quarantine. There is also a designated public health authorities hotline or telephone number depending on the province where you are at. If you are in British Columbia, the telephone number you would contact would be 811. Alberta, same 811. Saskatchewan, 811. If you're in Manitoba, 1-888-315-9257. If you're in Ontario, 1-866-797-0000. If you're in Quebec, 1-877-644-4545. If you're in New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, the hotline or the telephone number would be 811. Newfoundland and Labrador, it's 811 or 1-888-709-2929. If you're in Nunavut, it's 1-867-975-5772. If you're in the Northwest Territories in Yukon, then you can contact 811. Next slide. There is the penalty if you're not going to follow your quarantine plan. There is a fine of up to $750,000 or 6 months of jail time. If you will be found inadmissible, you will be removed from Canada and you will be banned from entering for 1 year. Next slide, please. If you are to secure your social insurance number, okay, you are going to proceed to Service Canada. If you're going to, if these are your questions or these are your concerns, employment insurance, Canada pension plan, old age security benefits, passport for essential travels, you may visit Service Canada. And for your SIN, you can do this entirely online through the secured SIN online portal. Okay, next slide, please. This is very important if you are there. We'd say no before you go. If you're visiting a business, check with the businesses that you're visiting. What are the closure areas and what are the the time? What time are they opening? What is the closing time? And what are the restrictions? Be respectful of communities you plan to visit. Be self-sufficient as much as possible by bringing food and other supplies with you. Keep your stay short. Make few stops as much as possible. Next slide, please. So always maintain a 2-meter physical distance with the other people. And wear your masks if you cannot keep the same distance of 2 meters. Wash your hands or use your sanitizer regularly. Knees and your elbow. Okay, next slide, please. Now we're going to talk about the Canadian education systems in response to COVID-19. So this is per province. So for British Columbia, a return to full-time in-class learning by September 8th is being looked into. Schools may use the following: staggered drop-off and pick-up times and modify lunch and recess hours, increased spacing between students and classroom and smaller group activities, limitations on assemblies, large gatherings and contact sports, parental reminders for children to minimize physical contact with friends. So there will be desks spaced apart. So medyo magkakalayo po yung desks. Avoid group gatherings of students in common areas. Staggered drop-offs, lunch and recess breaks with increased outside time. 1 student per seat on school buses, unless children are from the same house. So if the children are in the same house, it doesn't matter if they're going to sit from side by side. But if they're not from the same house, they have to observe a seat apart. So in Alberta, the guidance and plans for students to start 2021 school year has been out. So they are going to reorganize rooms for more physical space, rewarding students, signage to guide foot traffic, avoiding large gatherings, no requirement for masks. However, masks are encouraged in cases where physical distancing is not possible. No sharing policy, and that's a very strict policy. Okay, next slide, please. So in Manitoba, schools are preparing for in-person opening in September. For Saskatchewan, pre-12 schools will reopen for in-person learning this academic year 2021. I would just like to discuss further in Saskatchewan, modifying room configurations, and that is ongoing. Staggered recess, lunch in school, entry-exit, plan for individual activities, avoid activities with physical contact, no mixing between groups of students and staff, so they are totally separate. Administration meet with parents over phone or video conferencing where possible. Signage guiding students around the school, limiting sharing materials and equipment. So in-class learning will resume for the 2021 in Saskatchewan in September. So for Manitoba, physical distancing requirement is depend on the scenario that is chosen for reopening schools. There are two scenarios. Physical distancing measures lifted, group size increase, desktop space 1 to 2 meters apart, cohorting students, limit gathering in common areas, use of additional space if necessary, alternate days if necessary. So there's no official confirmation about the status of school reopening in September. So the priority is to have students back in the classroom. So for Manitoba, there's no confirmation yet if they're going to start in September. For Ontario, cohort students by age group to reduce contact. It has physical distancing of 2 meters between cohort students, staff, and essential visitors should be observed. Classroom furniture arranged to maximize physical distancing between students. Create designated routes of movement through the school. So there is one thing common in all provinces, that is to make signages or signages for foot traffic in schools. Okay, large gatherings are canceled. No physical distancing required when outdoors. Students are to eat their lunch in the classroom. So for their packed lunch, they have to eat in the classroom. And consider holding lunch outdoors, they are still to consider that. School board asked to prepare for normal school day routine with enhanced public health protocols. Modified school day routine based on smaller class sizes, cohorting, and alternatively day or week delivery. And at home learning is being talked about today. For Quebec, there is a back-to-school plan for education and higher education. Primary and below, all students in preschool, elementary, and secondary will attend class full-time in compliance with the standard ratios. Classes will be organized into subgroups of no more than 6 students. So no more than 6 students per class. Maintain the physical distancing rule of 1 meter between the various subgroups of students. The physical distancing rule of 2 meters. Teachers will move between classrooms based on the subject being taught, and students will remain in the same classroom. For students in secondary, the schedules for courses and special subjects will be reorganized. So in Quebec, elementary and younger students are expected to attend class in person. Secondary students either attend in person or alternate in-person and online learning. So they have two options. Next slide, please. For Prince Edward Island, 2021 school year plans have not yet been announced, so the plans are still in progress. For Nova Scotia, it has not been announced as of yet. And Newfoundland and Labrador, it's closed indefinitely, so they're just going to make announcements if there are some changes. And Yukon, it is closed for the rest of the year. And they are currently in phase 1 of plan for the lifting. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so there's for New Brunswick, K5 students will be in reduced size groups wherever possible. Students in K to 8 will attend school in person. That's for New Brunswick. In person po siya for K to 8. But for 9 to 12, they will attend school in person or at least every other day. Okay. So thank you so much. And I will give the floor back to Paul. That is the update for education and the airport procedure upon arrival in Canada.
Okay. Thank you, Connie. Now we will be opening the floor for questions for our first two speakers. Again, for those who are watching us, if you want to ask questions, please send your message in the chat box. Okay. Let's take the first question for Alan. We have OPR participants watching us this afternoon. Here's the question. Kailan ba ma-lift yung suspension for OPR?
Okay, so for those au pairs na nakapending po ang ating registration up to now, first of all, ang ating pong priority is the safety of our client. That includes the au pairs. So please be advised that the CFO has requested all the comments and inputs from the major destination countries, and we have forwarded to the DFA, the lead department, our advisory for further inputs and discussion. We would be more glad to update you as soon as it is available.
Okay. Thank you, Alan. Second question. Aside from Land Bank, what other modes of payment do CFO have in paying their registration fee?
Okay, so sa nabanggit nating mga banks, normally the lead bank is the Land Bank, but it can also do BDO. Pero recently there are some problems arising when paying through BDO to Land Bank. So we can try other banks like I think Metro Bank will do. And then we also do the Paymaya. Pero like I've said dun sa ating webinar, the CFO is trying to expand the payment centers. And we are talking to some payment centers as well, like Bayad Center, para mas maraming location po na makapagbayad ang ating mga kababayan ng kanilang registration fee and courier fee na hindi po nila kailangan lumabas ng bahay kasi nga tayo ay nasa MECQ pa ngayon.
Okay. Another question. Okay lang ba na gamitin ang temporary certificate sa airport?
Yes. As I've said sa discussion ko kanina, once we are registered at of course, you can and paid your registration fee, you may print your temporary, of course, certificate, which is valid until December 31, 2020. So if you have also requested the original copy of the document, the CFO registration sticker and guidance counseling certificate, at yun po ay hindi umabot sa inyong flight, you may use the temporary certificate. So both documents, the temporary CFO certificate and the original CFO sticker and guidance counseling certificates are valid documents, and they are recognized by the Bureau of Immigration.
Okay, thank you, Alan. For Connie, we have a question from Arlie Garcia Yuson. Question lang po, my workplace will be in Summerland, BC. Okay lang po ba mag-quarantine sa Alberta, where my half-sister live with his husband and their 12-year-old child?
I think my question for this is if you have landed in Canada na, or if you haven't landed yet. If your port of entry is in BC, is in Vancouver, then you have to have the mandatory quarantine in your port of entry. If your port of entry is in Vancouver, and that is your workplace, there are some arrangements in domestic airports. So may mga arrangements kasi iba-iba sa domestic airports and per province. So kung darating po kayo sa Vancouver, doon po yung port of entry ninyo, and yun po yung destination ninyo, doon po dapat yung plano ng inyong quarantine plan.
Okay, thank you. Another question, Connie, from Michael De La Cruz. My destination is Montreal, but my plan is to have mandatory 14-day quarantine on British Columbia with my relatives. After that, I would then transfer to Montreal. Is it okay to do that?
There is a possibility that you will be quarantined in Montreal still because it is, sabi ko nga, per province po ito. So if you're going to arrive in Vancouver, it says here, my destination is Montreal, but my plan is to have mandatory 14-day quarantine in British Columbia. Yes, you may do so. But if you're going to move to Montreal, there will be another 14-day quarantine you have to comply to.
Okay. Thank you, Connie. Another question for Alan.
Yes.
This from Chase Kenzo Kagigas. If issued sticker after attending PDOS, does it mean we are also registered with CFO and ready to fly abroad with no additional requirements?
Yes, Chase. Once you are registered at the Commission on Filipinos Overseas, either you have a CFO registration sticker affixed on your passport, or you are using the CFO of course, temporary certificate, you are already registered with CFO. So yung yan po ang hinahanap mostly na document for immigrants. But again, as I've discussed earlier, try also to check the other travel documents aside from the CFO sticker. Baka meron ding hihiningin sa inyo, like for example, the DSW travel clearance if you're traveling with a minor na hindi mo naman anak, or if you're as a government employee, you need to secure a clearance from your office. So yun po yung ilan sa mga ano. Pero if from CFO, once you have your sticker or temporary certificate, you are already registered and ready to leave.
Okay, thank you, Alan. Let's take one more question for Connie. We have Miss Leia Papin. Is there a needed template or form that we need to fill out for the quarantine plan?
There is no form for you to fill out for your quarantine plan, but these are the things that you have to remember if you're going to prepare it. How are you going to get to your destination? What means of transportation and private vehicle is encouraged? How are you going to get your groceries? How are you going to access your essentials? How are you going to visit the doctor for your medical care? So those sort of things you have to prepare. So again, there is no template you have to download and to fill out. You just have to prepare for those things.
Okay. Thank you, Connie. Thank you, Alan. That ends our open forum. Now, before we proceed to our third speaker, let's watch a video testimony from Mr. Greg Habal about his experience living in Canada.
Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. Isang karangalan ng makapagbahagi sa inyo ng mga karanasan tungkol sa pamumuhay dito sa North America. Ako si Greg Habal mula rito sa Oshawa, Ontario, Canada at nag-migrate noong February 2016, mga 4 na taong mahigit na rin po ang nakalipas. Nais kong ibahagi sa inyo ang mga mahalagang impormasyon na dapat nating tandaan at unahing gawin pagdating ng Canada, tulad ng PR card, health card, social insurance number at driver's license. Upon arrival at the port of entry, the immigration officer will advise us to wait for 3 to 6 weeks to receive our permanent resident card. Ito ay padadala through mail sa confirmed address sa ating landing document na pinirmahan. Ang PR card ay valid for 5 years. Ingatang ang confirmation of permanent residence o ang landing document sapagkat ito ang magsisilbing pagkakakilanlan habang hinihintay ang PR card. Sa first 2 weeks ng pagdating ng Canada, mag-apply ng health card sa Service Ontario. Ito ay ang OHIP o ang Ontario Health Insurance Plan. Upon application, ang OHIP card ay matatanggap through mail within 3 months. Ito ay nangangahulugan na wala tayong health insurance within that period. Kinakailangan natin ng iba yung pag-iingat o kumuha tayo ng private health insurance sapagkat napakamahal ng hospitalization. Kapag natanggap na ang health card, maaari nang humanap ng family doctor para sa pangangailangang pangkalusugan. Para sa Social Insurance Number or SIN, bumisita sa pinakamalapit na Service Canada or Service Ontario para mag-apply nito. Ang SIN ay Lifetime Personal Identification Number. Ito ay kinakailangan sa mga transaksyon sa government and financial institutions tulad ng Canada Revenue Agency or CRA, employment, opening bank account, claiming child benefits, and other government insurance benefits. Upang maiwasang maging biktima ng scam, huwag ipamimigay ang social insurance number sa mga taong kahinahinala at mga transaksyon sa telepono at emails. Ang Canada ay may maayos sa public transport system. Subalit, ang magkaroon ng sariling sasakyan ay isang pang-araw-araw na pangangailangan. Base sa aking karanasan, minabuti kong agarang magkaroon ng driver's license. Para sa pagkuha ng driver's license, pumunta sa pinakamalapit na driver examination center. Pag pumasa ka sa eye test and written test, makakakuha ka ng G1 license. After getting the G1 driver's license, you have to wait for about 8 months to have the road test for your exit going to G2 license. Ang G2 driver's license ay valid for 5 years. Within the 5-year validity of your G2 license, you have experience and you are confident enough, you can schedule for a road test and exit going to full G driver's license. Full G license has no more restrictions and you can drive anywhere in Canada. Handa na ba kayo sa challenges ng 4 seasons? Isa sa mga challenges ng paninirahan dito sa Canada ay ang klima at panahon. Iba't ibang season, iba't ibang kasuotan. Extreme heat or humidity during summer at mild to moderate to extreme cold during fall, winter, spring. Isa pa rin sa mga challenges ang mag-drive during winter. Iba yung pag-iingat at maging alerto sa mga hazards along the road upang hindi magkaroon ng aksidente. Base sa aking karanasan, hindi ako namili ng trabaho. Ang mahalaga, may kinikita at magkaroon ng Canadian experience. Mula sa pagiging guro at empleyado ng Commission on Filipinos Overseas, Manila, nagsimula ako dito bilang cleaner, cook ng kilalang fast food chain, assistant team leader ng malaking retail store, at quality inspector ng General Motors Canada sa kanilang assembly line. Sa paghahanap ng trabaho, malaking tulong ang mayroong koneksyon sa kapwa Filipino. Nakatulong din sa akin ang online job sites tulad ng Indeed.ca at LinkedIn. Nagpunta rin ako ng YMCA at ECHELIC, mga ahensyang accredited ng Employment Ontario for crafting updated resume for employment and job hunt coaching. Pinagsasabay ko ang pag-aaral at pagtatrabaho upang makakuha ng certificate at makapagtrabaho sa may mas mataas na wage rate. Sa ngayon, natanggap akong part-time bilang certified personal support worker at patuloy pa ring nag-aaral. Sa kasalukuyan, ako ay nag-aaral sa Trent University at pinagsisikapan kong matapos ang honors degree in sociology with double specialization in health studies and Criminology and Social Legal Studies. Nais ko ring ibahagi kung paano nagsimula ang aking asawa dito sa Canada. Siya ay nagsimula bilang live-in caregiver. Sa kanyang pagsisikap mag-upgrade, siya ngayon ay isang teacher sa isang Montessori school. Natapos niya ang Early Childhood Education Montessori Diploma habang may full-time job. Ganon din, siya ay approved certified member of the Ontario College of Teachers o OCT, the governing body of professional teachers in the province of Ontario, matapos ang isang taong evaluation and assessment on her international credentials. Within the first month of your arrival in Canada, tumawag o bumisita sa pinakamalapit na paaralan upang irehistro ang inyong mga anak. Sa mga nais magkolehiyo, maaaring makipag-ugnayan sa malapit na higher education institutions tulad ng university o kolehiyo upang makakuha ng sapat na impormasyon at gabay sa wastong career pathways. College and university education is highly expensive. For financial assistance, contact the school or apply for Ontario Student Assistance Program or OSAP. Tungkol naman po sa mga government benefits, ang aking pamilya ay nakatatanggap ng benepisyo tulad ng healthcare, universal child tax benefits or child care benefits, at ganun din ang tax refunds. Ang healthcare ay libre kahit sa major operations at vaccines, maliban lamang sa dental care, ambulance services at prescription drugs na binabayaran ng pasyente. Sa kasalukuyan, libre na rin ang prescription drugs sa mga pasyente na 25 years old. Ang dental care ng aking family ay kasama sa employment benefits mula sa aking employer. Mayroon ding financial child support sa mga bata tulad ng Universal Child Tax Benefit, Child Care Benefits for children until 17 years old. Ang tax refund naman ay halagang ibinabalik sa taxpayer. Ang child support at tax refund ay ibinabatay sa kabuuang kita ng pamilya. Ngayong panahon ng pandemic, isang napakalaking suporta ng gobyerno ang Canada Emergency Response Benefit or CERB sa halagang $2,000 kada buwan. At ang employment insurance, benepisyong batay sa kita ng bawat member. Ang pamumuhay at paninirahan sa ibang bansa tulad ng Canada ay hindi lamang puro pagpapasarap sa buhay. Kaakibat nito ang mga pagbabago sa ating mga kinagawian, pagsasaayos ng mga prioridad at higit sa lahat ang pagtanggap at paggalang sa mga pananaw sa buhay na umaayon sa sistema ng bagong lipunang ating piniling yakapin. Ang mabilis na takbo ng buhay sa Canada ay sanhi ng mga responsibilidad at pangangailangang pinansyal. Kaya naman, batay sa aking karanasan, pinili ko at ng aking pamilya na maging payak at praktikal ang pamumuhay dito. Sa pagbili ng anumang bagay, I always prioritize our needs and not our wants. I always make a list of items na kinakailangan namin. Hindi ako nagpapadala sa mga discounts and sales promotions. Sa mga pagkain, kahit pa naka-sale, bumibili lamang kami ng kayang ubusin hanggang sa susunod na pamimili. Otherwise, masasayang ang mga ito. Hindi rin tayo makakatipid kung ganun. Maraming thrifty stores. Mayroong mga bago, slightly used items, lalo na sa mga kasuotan o gamit sa bahay. Kumuha ng mga point cards or points cards tulad ng sa grocery stores. Every 2 to 3 months, nakakaipon ka ng points to redeem for free groceries. Huwag pairalin ang pride. Tuwing spring, Maraming nagbabawas ng mga kagamitan at nagpapalit ng bago. Inilalagay nila ang mga ito sa gilid ng kalsada. Lumang gamit sa bahay, mga laruan at iba pa na pwedeng kunin ng libre. Mayroon din namang mga garage sales. Kahit may debit cards, ever since na nagsimula kami dito sa Canada, credit cards ang lagi naming gamit para ma-establish ang credit scores o credit line para sa mas malalaking purchases tulad ng sasakyan o bahay. Ngunit maging responsable sa paggamit nito, lalo na sa mga store sales upang hindi malubog sa utang. Tungkol sa pagpili ng tirahan, maraming apartments, basements, o rental houses. Kami ay nangupahan at nagsimulang tumira sa basement ng bahay na may separate entrance. Sa ganitong paraan, mas makakatipid at iba ang ambience kesa sa apartment buildings. Sa pagpili ng sasakyan, napakaraming mapagpipilian from brand new to pre-owned or certified used cars. Pwede ring mag-rent lamang ng bagong sasakyan. Maraming conditions pero parang rent-to-own ang terms. Ako, mas pinili ko muna ang bumili ng pre-owned. Sa ganon, wala akong alalahaning monthly mortgage maliban sa insurance. Sa trabaho, huwag isa lang alang ang magandang trabahong iniwan sa Pilipinas. Dito ay totoong nagsisimula from scratch. Ano pa man ang work or professional background natin. Ang mahalaga ay may income para makaraos sa mga obligasyong pinansyal. Connect with Filipinos and make friends. Mahalaga pa rin ang referral sa pag-a-apply ng trabaho. Sa karamihan, angat ka kung sa kilalang siyudad nagtatrabaho o nakatira. Sa aming mag-asawa, mas pinili naming magtrabaho outside major cities like Toronto and Markham. Medyo mababa ang wage rate pero mababa rin ang cost of living. Isa pang advantage ay mas maganda ang environment sa pagpapalaki ng mga bata. Tandaan po natin na ang wage rate ay kalimitang tumutugon sa cost of living ng isang lugar at ang pag-iipon ay batay sa kalamang pinansyal at hindi sa laki ng kinikita. Isa ring malaking challenge ang quality time for our family dahil busy sa trabaho. Walang kamag-anak na pwedeng pag-iwanan ng mga bata kung may pasok sa trabaho. Ganun pa man, may mga before and after school daycare centers, may subsidized ng government at mayroon ding private business. Spend quality time with the family, lalo na kung summer season. Mayroong summer activities para sa mga bata. Napakaraming recreation centers and parks para magsama-sama ang pamilya at mga kaibigan. Tungkol naman sa propesyon, maraming options para mag-upgrade o mag-aral muli habang nagtatrabaho. Tulad ng ginawa naming mag-asawa. Sa huli, enjoy what life brings. Learn and reach out to others. Be practical in life. Practice humility, patience, discipline, and hard work. Be responsible to your family and pay respect to Canada's government, its laws, multiculturalism, and diversity. Mag-ipon at huwag kalimutang tumulong sa wastong paraan. Mag-invest sa ating sinilangang bayan. Mas masarap pa rin ang buhay sa Pilipinas sa ilang kadahilanan. Kung kaya't mainam pa ring mag-retire sa bansang kinagisnan.
Okay. Thank you, Greg. In case you miss our first two speakers, you can watch the entire webinar lecture here in CFO page later. Okay, we go to our third speaker. He graduated from the University of British Columbia and obtained his professional accounting designation through the university's Certified General Accounting Program, or CGA. Completed accounting requirements with the Canadian federal government through Revenue Canada and Canada Employment and Immigration Canada, or CEIC. Prior to establishing his own accounting firm, he held various managerial positions in the financial service in the region of British Columbia and Yukon. Currently, he is the president of the MC Associates and concurrent corporate financial director of Verasil Therapeutic Research Incorporation and Swiss Dental Laboratories Incorporation. Let's welcome the chairperson of the Multicultural Helping House Society, Pathways to Canada, Mr. Michael T. Cayetano.
Thank you, Paul. I hope you can hear me. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for attending today's webinar. I'm going to do my best to give you some information that will be helpful in both financial aspects in Canada as well as preparation of your tax return. So again, marami pong salamat sa pagkinig ninyo today, for your listening today. Okay, the first thing that I want to tell you is that, may I have the next slide, please? First thing I want to introduce to you, are the, next slide, please, are the chartered banks in Canada. Here they are: the Royal Bank of Canada, Toronto Dominion Bank, TD Canada Trust, Bank of Nova Scotia, or Scotiabank, Bank of Montreal, Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, or CIBC, and those are the 5 chartered banks we have in Canada, and they have numerous branches all over Canada. The biggest of this is the Royal Bank of Canada. The oldest of this is the Bank of Montreal. So Bank of Montreal, I think, is over 100 years old in Canada. So they've been around for a while, these chartered banks. And they are protected by legislation in Canada. Your money is quite safe with these banks, as well as the credit unions of Canada. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay. Now, I want to tell you that you have the right to open an account, even if you do not have a job, you have no initial deposit, you have poor credit rating, or you've been bankrupt. You do have a right to open a bank account. That's not a problem. And that's one of the things that perhaps you should look after right at the start, is to open the bank account, because I'm very sure that at the start, you will be likely needing to transfer funds from the Philippines to Canada in order to support your daily requirements, in addition to what you already have, okay, what you already have brought in. So one of the things that you should do as soon as possible is open that bank account. And that way you're not holding cash in your pocket or anything like that, okay? Next slide, please. Here are the requirements to open a bank account for newcomers: a social insurance number, or SIN number. Okay, that's that is shown on the SIN card. A COPR, or the confirmation of permanent residence issued by IRCC, and the last thing is a valid foreign passport. So you need these 3 items, or these 3 documents, to open a bank account, and there should be no problem. As a matter of fact, I do know that Bank of Montreal and Royal Bank of Canada do have special programs for newcomers. Sorry, I forgot Scotiabank. Bank of Nova Scotia also has special program for newcomers. So they actually try to make it easier for you to open your bank account without too much hassle. So try to take advantage of these things, and they really are quite helpful. You will find quite helpful in helping you open those accounts. Next slide, please. Okay, the types of accounts. The main types of bank accounts are, of course, the checking account and the savings and investment accounts. So these are the general types of accounts you can open in the bank. Some of you will have other requirements, of course, and I'm very sure that the banks in Canada can accommodate. I don't think that's a problem. Okay, and you see savings and investment accounts, it pays to know.gc.ca. That's a link that you can use to find out more about the types of accounts that you can open in these banks. And I'm sorry, I keep omitting credit unions. You can also use credit unions. There is also such a thing as community banks, which you can use, but community banks don't have as many branches available. So perhaps the use of the chartered banks or even the larger credit unions would be perhaps more advantageous at this point, particularly since you're a newcomer to Canada. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, I'd like to talk about choosing a credit card. It says consult FCAC website. FCAC stands for Financial Consumer Agency of Canada. This you can find in canada.ca. So you can actually look at the various credit cards, do a comparison of interest rates, annual and other fees, the grace period for payments, minimum monthly payments, because not every month we're able to pay the monthly payment. Sometimes you can only afford to pay just the interest, for example. So it talks about that. And there are introductory offers provided by credit card issuers, MasterCard, Visa. You know these cards, there's no problem. And how are the payments applied? Of course, this is nothing new to you. The same credit cards you hold in the Philippines, very similar to the credit cards that are operating over here. There may be some exceptions, and those exceptions are mainly credit cards that relate to specific stores, such as a grocery store or a clothing store. They have their own credit cards. So these are some credit cards that you might not be familiar with, but the rules and the policies are just about the same. Okay, and I'll tell you something with credit cards. In the back is a help number that you can call for the MasterCard or the Visa. You can call them, and they are open 24 hours, and they are there particularly to help protect your security of the credit cards. So just as earlier was explained, that you must protect yourself against fraud, you must protect yourself against misuse of your funds. Please don't forget, when you come to Canada, you are carrying quite a bit of money already, okay? And the reason is because naturally, you need this money to survive at least 3 months. So it's not going to be quite a bit of money. So you need the security. And I can tell you this much. If you protect yourself against, if you properly take the necessary steps to protect yourself against fraud or the similar types of activities, the bank usually will look after your loss. It's very, very good. They will 100% look after your loss. It was explained at the earlier video how to protect your information, and we'll go through some of those ways as well. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, as I mentioned, in the Philippines, in Asia, in Canada, in the States, fraud is very prevalent, particularly during this time of pandemic. Okay, so therefore, you must protect yourself. For example, you'll be given a PIN number for your bank. Try to make sure that you don't share this. And if you feel that it's been compromised, change it immediately, or contact the bank. The 24-hour line, they will be more than glad to help you to cancel the existing card and send you a new one within 2 or 3 days. is no problem. This goes for a bank card, this goes for a credit card, or any other type of card that you might hold, okay? So you're well protected, don't worry, but again, we have to be responsible and make sure we take the necessary steps to protect ourselves against fraud. That is very, very important. But this is also very, very simple. So it shouldn't come as a any surprise or any new ways to protect our information. We're doing that now in the Philippines. Wherever we go, we're doing that now. Therefore, practice the same, use the same practices here while in Canada. And again, I couldn't stress the fact that when you first come here, you likely will have a good sum of money to keep you surviving for at least 2 or 3 months. So please, please take the necessary security measures. Next slide, please. In Canada, and I'm sure it's the same thing in the Philippines, we have emails sent to us, phishing emails that is sent to us that we don't even know where it comes from. We have telemarketers asking questions that we don't even know who they are. So these are some of the ways to make sure that you're protected is to ignore those telemarketers that we are not familiar with, and to not answer, or even better, to delete those phishing emails that we are not familiar with. Okay, there's a lot of them, and actually they're very, very, shall we say, in the way they put things, very, very intelligent and quite smooth in getting information from you. Before you know it, you've given your PIN number or your password without even realizing that you've done that. So the minute you see the name that is unfamiliar, that is calling you or sending you an email, just ignore it already, okay? So please do that. Okay, may I have the next slide, please? Now, the next slide talks about bank loans, talks about lines of credit, and talks about payday loan payable in your, these are loans for your next paycheck. These are also available, by the way. You can get personal bank loans, you can get lines of credit, okay, credit lines. You can get money from your credit card, advance money from your credit card, and you can go to a company like Money Mart, who will give you cash at a discount for your next paycheck. So we have those kinds of things here, and it's definitely available. And I was just speaking to a banker today from Bank of Montreal, for example, one of their top officers from Bank of Montreal here in British Columbia. And definitely, there is no issue about issuing you a credit card, provided all the information that you need to get the credit card is available. So we are, the banks here, the financial institutions here, are quite generous. I wouldn't say generous, but quite understanding that you need a credit card to survive. And let's face it, these kinds of things are available to you because the government, the Canadian government, also supports it. Okay. One thing to note, just like in Manila, if you don't pay your credit card on time, you pay them inconsistently, it does affect your credit score. And that also becomes problematic when you are about to buy a house, which is our next slide. May I have the next slide, please? Okay, the next slide talks about the mortgages for the purpose of buying a home. Of course, it's expected that you will likely have to rent for a while, but for those who can afford, for those who can put a good down payment, the bank will entertain giving you a home mortgage. There's a down payment that is required, okay? Usually, on the average, the down payment is 25% of the total value of the house. That is usual. But again, remember I said earlier that there are special programs for the bank, in the bank, for new landed immigrants. And so that down payment is actually has some flexibility. Okay, the interest rate for a loan. Today, the prime rate, the borrowing rate, the prime rate in Canada is 2.45% per year. It's that low. Okay, 2.45% per year. So the cost of borrowing here is actually very, very low. As a matter of fact, I was told today by a good client of mine that the prime rate in HSBC, and I haven't checked this, but he told me the prime rate in HSBC is down to 1.99% per year for a 3-year term. It's not bad. But the listed prime rate in Canada is 2.45%. The term and amortization of a mortgage contract usually ranges from 25 years to 30 years. So you do have 25 years to 30 years, number of years to be able to pay down this mortgage. Okay, open and close simply is what I'm sure a lot of you know about. The prime rate, you can keep it open so that if it goes down further, you take advantage of that rate. It's not fixed, it's not closed. Close rate, of course, is where you would say, okay, I want to lock in my rate because it's a very, very good rate. I want to lock it in for the next 5 years. So the thing is, when COVID happened here in Canada, the interest rates went down, it dropped significantly. And so the rates I'm telling you, 2.5% Bank of Canada rate for borrowing a home mortgage, and some banks even list it as lower. Those are the rates today. Okay, so they were a little higher pre-COVID, but they've gone significantly lower now. So the cost of borrowing is just about nil. Okay, other closing costs. What are those? Well, we have to pay something called a property transfer tax. So we have to pay the property tax for the property we're buying. Okay. Other things that we have to pay is insurance for our mortgage, and so forth. So generally, closing costs can run you from 5% to 10% of the cost of the house, depending what you want to include in the price, depending what added security you want to put into the cost of buying your new property. Okay, and the last item there says ongoing cost of ownership. Well, that simply means that you have to pay every year property tax. No different than in Manila. Property tax you have to pay every year. Other things you have to pay every year would be, there is something called empty house tax, which the government has put in place to discourage people from buying property and then leaving it empty because they've moved back to their country of origin. So there's something like that as well. Empty house tax, there's the property tax. At this point, we have something called utility tax, which is payment for water and sewage and that sort of thing. So that's a one-time payment at the end of the year as well. It's not very large, to be honest. Okay, good. Next slide, please. the questions you should ask when you're in front of the banker. And do feel free to be yourself when you're asking these questions. Okay, may I have the next slide, please? Do feel free to ask these questions when you're in front of the banker. What is the interest rate? What is the difference if I pay bi-weekly, twice a month, or monthly? Are lump sum payments possible? What are the fees to pay lump sum payments? Okay, those are questions that you need to ask the banker, and do feel free, because after all, it becomes your liability for these kinds of things. Okay. Now, may I have the next slide, please? The interest rates and amortization. I already mentioned that the prime rate in Canada is 2.45% for an open mortgage. Okay, the prime rate in Canada is 2.45% for an open mortgage. Now, I'm gonna tell you something. Using a mortgage calculator this afternoon, I tried to compute how much the monthly payment is for a house that will cost $1 million with zero down payment. So that's $1 million with zero down payment. I computed the monthly payment, and the interest rate here is 2.45%. The payment monthly is $4,679.37. Okay. It might be a little high if you try to convert that to Philippine peso terms, if you try to do that. However, don't know if you should do that. I don't know if you should really convert to peso terms, because you're going to be earning in dollars when you get here. You're not going to be earning in pesos. Over here, average wage, there's a minimum wage over here of about $14 an hour. Okay, that's minimum wage. Of course, the price goes up. For an engineer over here, average annual wage is between $80,000 a year to about $100,000 a year. Okay, that's for an engineer who has proper credentials. So it's not so bad, really. The earning in Canadian dollars and having to pay for your home. Now, right away, we're just talking about one person working in being employed in Canada. But if there are two of you, both spouses working, so that even helps, you see. So there's a lot of things actually that might be able to do this, be able to afford the purchasing a house instead of renting. Initially, we might have to rent, but consider that instead of renting, it might be more advantageous to already buy. That makes more sense. Okay. Okay, now I am in a screen called What is an RRSP? This is the screen I'm on, and an RRSP is called a Registered Retirement Savings Plan. Okay, RRSP is a vehicle, a investment vehicle that you can, just a little bit higher. What is an RRSP? There you go. There, I'm back on now. A registered retirement one slide down, please, if you don't mind. Keep going. A registered retirement there you go. A registered retirement savings plan is what it basically says. It's a way to save for your retirement, a retirement savings plan. So what we have to do is we consider that we will contribute some of our hard-earned money to an RRSP. Now, why do that? Let me explain why you may want to do that. Number one, the amount of money you contribute to an RSP will lower your taxes because it reduces your income. So the lower the income, the lower the taxes, correct? The RSP will lower your taxes. Okay, number one. Number two, the RRSP is your own account. So that money doesn't get lost. That money is not given to the government. That money stays in your bank account, but it's as an RRSP. Okay? So that money belongs to you when you need it. Number two, if that money, the RRSP money, earns interest, usually banks will take that money and will invest it if you want to. They'll invest it where you want to, how much you want to, and if you want to. You can also leave it as cash. But as I mentioned, this money can actually earn interest. It can actually grow. So the growth of this interest is tax-free. It's tax-free while it remains in the RSP. When you take out the RSP later on, taking it out meaning you go to the bank and you withdraw the RSP, you're going to get taxed on whatever growth there is. But you can take it out a little bit at a time as well. You don't have to take out a huge amount. The third benefit of an RSP is you can use that RSP as a down payment for your home. And this is a special government program, and it's called the Home Buyers Plan. First-time home buyers plan, you can use that RSP as a down payment to buy your home. So you see, RSP actually is quite useful. It'll reduce taxes. Within the RSP, there's a facility to grow, and you can actually use it as down payment for your new home. And you're not going to get taxed on it. As I mentioned, it is called the Home Buyers Plan. It is with the government of Canada, and you're not going to get taxed on it because it is a special program that allows residents to be able to afford their new house. Okay, there is one provision though. The Home Buyers Plan, whatever RSP you use as down payment, we have to pay it back into our RSP account. In other words, we have to give the bank a little bit of money over a 15-year period. Okay, so if we borrowed $15,000 from the RSP to use as down payment, and we have to pay it back within 15 years, each year we have to give the bank $1,000 to put as payment towards our Home Buyers Plan. Okay, so that's what that is. May I have the next page, please? Okay. I've got advantages and disadvantages of the RSP. I think I've spoken quite a bit on this already. So just very briefly, short-term benefit, it defers tax or it reduces tax, okay? So you can pay lower tax and increase your tax refund. Medium-term benefit, you can use it for purposes of the Home Buyers Plan, among other things. I also have listed there the Lifelong Learning Plan, but the Home Buyers Plan is perhaps the most useful of the two. And the third benefit is if you keep the RSP there, when you retire, you can actually withdraw this money and use it for your retirement. Okay, disadvantages, when you withdraw money from the RSP, it's subject to tax. So the trick to RSP is to withdraw it when you have small income, so that your taxes do not go so high. Okay. Other things that that might be disadvantageous to an RSP, instead of putting the money in other investment opportunities, it might be taking away if you put the money in the RSP. In other words, there might be other investment opportunities that pay better than what the RRSP offers in return. Okay, so that's the only thing. The last thing about RRSP is the last point there: premature death. Of course, every one of us wants to live past age 65 into our 70s, into our 80s, where we can actually withdraw the RSP. Okay, but if we suddenly die, just suddenly die, whatever is in the RSP goes to our dependents. It doesn't go to the government, that goes to our dependents. Please consider that when they go to your dependents, it's your dependents that will be responsible for paying those deferred taxes. Okay? So I just wanted to tell you that there is that advantage. But we don't think of those kinds of things. We think that we're going to stick around for a while. And we've done a good job, other than during this period of the pandemic. We've done a good job about being able to live longer through eating better food and exercise and so forth. So hopefully we won't suffer a premature death. Next slide, please. This one talks about TFSA. The TFSA also stands for the tax-free savings account. This one, if you put money in here, any interest earned in this account is tax-free. It's not deferred, it's actually tax-free. You can withdraw the money tax-free. You can earn interest tax-free, no problem. The only issue with TFSA is it is not tax deductible. Unlike the RRSP, where it helps give you a good refund, the TFSA does not do that. But the TFSA is available for those that have extra money, that want to put their extra money in an investment where they can earn better return and still not have to pay taxes on it. There is a limit, by the way, to the TFSA, and that limit is a contribution of $5,000 per year per individual. Okay, that's what the TFSA is. Okay, may I have the next slide, please? Again, we talked enough about the advantages and disadvantages of the TFSA. It actually is a vehicle that was created maybe about 10 years ago. Okay, as I mentioned, you can earn interest in the TFSA. It's not taxable. You can withdraw the money in the TFSA. It is not taxable. And you can use that for savings for any purpose. There is no problem. The disadvantage is any money you put in the TFSA is not tax deductible. In other words, it does not get you any type of extra refund. This is different from the RRSP. So a lot of people, they take advantage of the TFSA when they have extra money, but a lot of them mainly use the RRSP for purposes of investment. There are other ways to invest money, but the RRSP is very, very popular because it reduces taxes. Okay. Okay. For the next slide, we're going to talk about what is RESP. RESP is Registered Education Savings Plan. Okay, Registered Education Savings Plan. What is that? It is intended for you to put money in to help finance the tuition fee of your college-bound kids or kids that are already in college. This is to help with the tuition fee of those that are in college. It's not for grade school tuition fee, okay, but it's tuition fee for those that are entering college. Any money you put in the RESP is actually topped up by the provincial government at about 20%. So they even top it up for you. They give you 20% more, okay? And this can be used when your child goes into college or university, okay? And money here is not tax deductible, okay? And when it is withdrawn, only if it is withdrawn for purposes of tuition fee. It is not taxable either. Okay, and as I mentioned, the provincial government tops it up. You can see the last sentence there, may receive government grants. The provincial government can top it up by 20%, whatever you put in, by 20%. Okay, so that's very good. That's a good help. And by the way, the extra 20% that the government puts in, as long as the kid uses the money for their schooling, is not taxable either. Okay, if the kid suddenly drops out of school and does not complete their schooling, the provincial government will ask for the 20% back. But the RESP really is a mainstay among Canadians. RRSP and then RESP, right in the same conversation. Have you bought your RSP? Have you bought your RESP? So this is very, very good. Very, very good way of helping us to pay for the tuition fee for kids in college or university. Okay, so that's what that is. And next slide, please. Who can have RESP? The child can have RESP. The parent is the subscriber and opens and contributes to the RESP. Can be the mom, can be the dad, can be common law spouse. So this RESP can actually be opened by many people as long as the beneficiary is a child. Okay. There are different plans for RESP. One plan is a single plan and the other plan is the family plan. Okay, the single plan, of course, is for just the one child. The family plan, of course, is for more than one child. It's quite straightforward there. Okay, and you can contribute to the RESP. The parents can contribute to the RESP up until the child reaches age 21, under 21. The child must be under 21 in order for the parents to contribute to the RESP. Okay. Okay. So next page just tells you about the single plan and the family plan. Next slide, please, tells you about the single plan and the family plan. As I mentioned, the single plan is for one child. Okay. The family plan is for one or more children. That basically is the difference between the two of them. Okay, there's nothing else. Nothing else. By the way, perhaps a question would be, where do you get RESP? There's many financial institutions that sell RESP. The bank does it. The credit union does it. Financial institutions do it. Financial institutions can be institutions that look after special services like RRSP and RESP. Very limited what they do, but they're very specialized is what I'm trying to say. And so there's many folks that offer RESP plans. And don't worry with RESP. In order to exist in Canada, they all have to be registered. So that is not a problem. I've just given you a glimpse of some of the financial literacy issues that might come up in Canada. There's a lot more. And it was noted earlier that CFO also runs a financial literacy program. This, I think, you might want to ask Sir Paul or Sir Alan about, but I think it would be also very advantageous to be involved, to participate in this program run by the CFO. Okay, so that concludes my small presentation on financial literacy. I would like to go now to income tax and benefit return. Now, the first thing you will note is the income tax. The proper name for income tax is income tax and benefit return. Why? Because the income tax return is the gateway to receiving most of your benefits. Okay, this income tax return is your gateway. This is to say, as you know, that the income tax program is administered by Canada Revenue Agency. The benefits, the driver of the benefits is also administered by Canada Revenue Agency. For example, the child tax, the Canada Child Benefit, CCB, is a product of CRA, Canada Revenue Agency. And there are other benefits. The GST refund comes from Canada Revenue Agency. The next speaker will talk about what Canada Revenue Agency is currently doing to ease the pandemic. I won't go into that because there's a lot of topics involved in that one. I'd like to move on to the income tax and benefit return. And these are the things that I'm gonna cover, okay? And so may I have the next slide, please? The topics that are included in this presentation is going to be how to file your first income taxes in Canada, TFSA, we already talked about that, GST, HST. GST stands for Goods and Services Tax. HST stands for Harmonized Sales Tax. In some provinces, it's known as HST. In other provinces like British Columbia, it's known as GST, okay? But it's literally the same thing, just a different type of computation, okay? That's also run by Canada Revenue Agency, okay? The RESP and the RRSP, those are also administered by CRA. Okay, other topics that I will just gloss over because there's a lot of information here is filing your income tax as a self-employed. And another area that I know a lot of you will have is if you have rentals that you're going to leave behind in the Philippines, what are you going to do? How do you manage these? And more importantly, how do you report them to Canada? So there are rules, there are steps to follow in all of these, okay? So next slide, please. Okay, so to do your taxes, okay, I'm going to talk about when the tax return is due. I'm going to talk about you getting some help to do your taxes. You're not alone on this one. There is free help to do your taxes. How to fill out your income tax and benefit return. When will you get your refund? Do you owe money and do you need to make changes to the tax return after you sent it? There is an opportunity to change whatever you sent. Might I have the next slide, please? Okay. So what do we need to do our taxes? It's actually very simple. Our taxes are our responsibility as a taxpayer, whether we had income or no income in the current year, we still have to file the taxes. Why? Because as I mentioned earlier, the filing of the tax return is the door to opening the benefits that you would be entitled to, okay? The GST tax credits, the Canada Child Benefit, and the Working Income Tax Benefit, just to name a few, okay? So you must file your taxes. Next slide, please. Okay, when is your taxes due? This is pre-COVID. Taxes are due April 30. In Manila, taxes are due April 15, correct? In Canada, taxes are due no later than April 30. Okay, so unless you have a business, if you have a business, if you are self-employed or have a business, your taxes are due June 15. Again, these dates are pre-COVID, not post-COVID. So there are new dates because of post-COVID, and the next presenter will actually explain that. Okay, may I have the next slide, please? Okay, this is what I'm talking about. If you have to file your income tax as a self-employed or you are in business, you file it by June 15. That's the filing deadline, but you have to pay by April 30. That's the only thing. You have to file. You can file. You have the opportunity to file until June 15, but you must pay if you owe money. You must pay by April 30. Otherwise, there's interest that's going to be charged on you. Just interest. As long as you file on time, there's no penalties, but there will be interest. And the prescribed rate for interest with CRA is, if I'm not mistaken, it's 7%. So it's quite high, but there is opportunity to pay down that debt over the year. Okay, they'd like to see it paid at the end of the year. There is opportunity, but they will charge you interest. Okay. Okay. Next slide, please. Do you need help in doing your taxes? Remember earlier I was speaking about getting free help. There is something called a free tax clinic, and this is found in canada.ca. It's a free tax clinic, and there is a requirement to earn under a certain income. For example, if you're a single person and your income is $35,000 or under, there is an opportunity to get your taxes done for free. But as a single person, you must earn $35,000 and under. If you're husband and wife, both of you, your total income must be, as husband and wife, must be $45,000 and under for the year, okay? And so forth. So, but there is this tax help that you can get. There are tax clinics available, a lot of them, and they would be more than happy to help you. And you can actually do your tax return online with their help. So it's not an issue. Okay. Next slide talks about what is called a simple tax situation. Your tax is simple when you are on a salary, when you are on a pension, when you have benefits such as Canada Pension Plan, otherwise known as CPP, or you have disability, when you have EI benefits, when you have social assistance, or that's called a family social assistance or income assistance, okay? So these things are simple. When you have RRSP, when you have support payments where you get payments from a former spouse or something like that. Or as a student, you got scholarship, fellowship, bursaries, or grants. And if your bank account gave you under $1,000 of interest for the entire year. These are simple tax returns. There's a lot more situations that define what is simple and complex. But if you have a simple tax return, more than likely, you'd be able to qualify for free tax preparation through the tax clinic. And you'd find this in each of the provinces, okay? Okay, next slide, please. Your tax situation is not simple. If you are self-employed, if you have rental income, if you do buy and sell of properties, if you filed for bankruptcy, or you are completing a tax return for a deceased person. Okay, so there's a link there on the bottom to find a taxation clinic. Again, I repeat, just go to canada.ca and you'll find the most of the links necessary to do your taxation. Okay, when you are in a situation where your tax is not simple, you likely will not qualify for the free tax clinic. Okay, so I just wanted to let you know that as well. Okay, so the next slide, please, talks about how to fill out your income tax and benefit return. Okay, and firstly, if you're getting a refund, you can actually have the refund deposited directly to your bank account, and you'll get your refund sooner. Okay, because a check doesn't have to be created. Actually, CRA, Canada Revenue Agency, would prefer a paperless type of environment. They would like to see you file your taxes electronically. They would like to issue you these benefits like child tax benefit, Canada Child Benefit. They would like to issue your refund electronically as well, straight to your bank account. It's less costly for them. Okay, so they encourage this. Okay, so to do the step-by-step process, let's go on to the next slide. Step 1, we're going to talk about completing an income tax return now. In step 1, collect all the information that you need. Okay, to fill out your tax return, what are they? The first and foremost you need is something called a T4 slip. What is a T4 slip? It is a tax slip that summarizes how much your employer paid you for the previous year. That's what a T4 slip is. So for example, we are now preparing the tax return for 2019. We're preparing it now, 2020. So you would need the T4 slip for 2019. That's issued by the employer. You don't have to, it's a requirement that they issue this for you, to you. Okay, there are other types of tax information slips, such as T4A. You see on the bottom line, T4A is the slip, the remuneration slip for self-employed. If you're on a commission, or for business owners, or for self-employed, T4A is what is used. The next slip there says T4A OAS. OAS stands for Old Age Security. So these are for those seniors that are already receiving old age security, and you qualify for old age security. There are certain requirements, but most Canadians receive old age security when they reach the age of 65. Okay, T4AP, that stands for the remuneration given for the Canada Pension Plan. Okay, and the Canada Pension Plan is a very much another form of pension, just like the old age security pension. The Canada Pension Plan is very much a pension that is paid to you because you, during your lifetime your working lifetime, you paid towards this account. It's a requirement, by the way, to pay towards this account. Okay, and the last thing is a T4E on the page. T4E is for remuneration paid for purposes of employment and insurance. Okay, so there's a lot of T4 slips. There's many more actually. There's a lot of T4 slips that we can go through. Me just talking about this, very, very difficult to actually understand and comprehend what these things are. But because of time restrictions, we likely will not be able to show you the other types of T4. Okay, so next page, please. Step 2, in preparing your income tax return, is to select the software you will use to fill out your return. Okay, and the software can be the NetFile program of CRA. They have something called a NetFile program that allows you to file electronically your own return. Or there are commercial tax software available, such as TurboTax. I'm sure a lot of you would know what TurboTax is, I think. TurboTax is a commercial software selling for $25, and it allows you to file your tax return for you and your family. So it's well worth the money for $25. and they're both online filing. They're both online filing, and they actually will allow you to file your tax returns online and receive your refund. If you're getting a refund, receive your refund anywhere from 5 to 10 days. Okay, that quick. Okay. And next step, please. Step number 3 is to make sure that your information is up to date. That's a given, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Make sure that your information is up to date. If your marriage status changed, for example, you got married, or for example, you have a new child, you report it in your tax return. Okay, so that's what that is. And step number 4, which is the next slide, is just simply report your income. Follow the screen, report your income. It's not that difficult. Okay, that's step 4. Just report your income. And step 5 is the next slide. Step 5 is understand what deductions are available to you. If you are able to, or fortunate enough to use a tax clinic, do so, because the tax clinic will be able to tell you what kind of expenses you can claim, what type of tax credits available to you. If you have children, you get tax credits as well, what deductions are available to you, and so forth. Don't forget, in these deductions is the possibility of RRSP as well, which we talked about earlier. Okay, so that also helps, the RRSP. Okay, so again, these deductions can be looked at more closely in something called Canada.ca. So I keep going back to this Canada.ca because it's very, very useful, and a lot of the information is actually there. It's very, very good. Step 6, which is the following slide. Again, you can file it using NetFile, or you can file it using the online system of a commercial software. Okay, that's step 6. Basically, that's step 6. And again, Canada.ca talks about sending a tax return. One other thing that I never mentioned was that you can still file your tax return online. Okay, so that's what it is. And step 7 is just keep your supporting documents for 6 years. Statutes of limitation is 6 years. So keep your supporting documentation for 6 years. And because every once in a while, Canada Revenue Agency would like to see this documentation. The other thing I wanted to tell you is if you're still earning income, in the Philippines, they will ask to see your Philippine ITR. If you are preparing a Philippine ITR, they will ask for that. Okay, so be prepared to be able to show that. So somehow, okay. So I'm going to stop at this point. There's a few more slides, but I'm going to be stopping at this point. The topics for taxation is actually quite extensive. Hopefully, we can have another session where we can actually go into an actual tax preparation, and I can show you the nuances of preparing a tax return. By the way, this is Pathways to Canada, and so that's the hat I'm wearing today for Pathways to Canada. I'm gonna turn the floor over to Sir Paul, and he can take over the rest of the sessions, if you will. Thank you. Salamat po.
Thank you, Mike, for that informative discussion. Just to add to what Mike mentioned earlier about CFO's financial literacy program, please visit pesosense.com. It's an interactive website. We offer free online training modules on budgeting, insurance, investment, savings, and then the rest. We also have a Facebook page for PesoSense. It's PesoSense PH. Okay, so just like us. We would like to apologize for the glitch we encountered during Mike's financial literacy presentation. We experienced slow internet connection a while ago. So if you miss the some part of Mike's presentation, and you want to get copy of the PowerPoint that we use or the videos that we played, we will be posting all our materials here in CFO FB page, or you can send us an email at info@cfo.gov.ph. Okay. Now let's proceed for our last speaker. She is also a program coordinator for Multicultural Healthy House Society. Before she works with NHS, she works as an OR nurse at St. Paul Hospital for 2 years. Then she moved to work as an English communication specialist at BCM Language Academy for 5 years. She graduated from St. Paul University with a bachelor degree in nursing. Currently, aside from helping Filipino migrants settle in Canada, she is also engaged in her agro enterprise business. Let's welcome Ms. Yula Teres M. Santosildes, Program Coordinator of MHHS Pathways to Canada. Yula.
Yes, thank you, Paul, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm Yula, one of the program officers of Pathways to Canada. You might be wondering how are we partnered with CFO and kung ano-ano yung mga services na napoprovide namin to Filipinos who are heading to Canada permanently. Okay, so let me show you video clips so you can have a glimpse of what we do here in the Philippines. Okay. Well, we noticed po, marami sa inyong nanonood who are eligible clients or who are eligible individuals and families to come to Canada as permanent residents. And we understand sa panahon ngayon, marami po kayong questions. Okay. We got them. However, since we have limited time for this webinar, we encourage you to direct your questions. Okay. Questions po again for Pathways to Canada. Simula po sa presentation ni Ms. Connie kanina a while ago on arriving in Canada. You may send your inquiries directly to our Facebook page, which is Pathways to Canada Inc. or INC. Okay, again, it's Pathways to Canada INC. Okay, and also for those of you who prefer another platform, you can send a text message or give us a call at 0999-105-2696. Again, that's 0999-105-2696. Okay, so let me begin. My part would be to share how Canada is responding to COVID-19. Also, along with it is the government services that is provided to landed permanent residents and citizens in the time of COVID. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, how is Canada responding to COVID-19? So these are the different aspects that they have been considered or they have been considering in dealing with COVID-19. One is ethics. A number of ethical platforms have been given to the decision makers so that there will be uniformity in the decisions all across Canada. Next is healthcare preparedness. Nung nagsimula po ang pandemya, the government has made sure that there are enough equipment for medical practitioners or healthcare professionals, PPEs, masks, and also critical care units for those who will be admitted due to COVID. Third is economical and financial support. You will learn a lot about the financial support that the government has provided to its citizens and permanent residents later as we go along. Okay, next is border measures. As discussed earlier, may mga changes po as to how we usually land in Canada. Next is support for Canadians abroad. There are two specific supports given to Canadians abroad, especially those who are stranded in other countries. One is there is a financial support, and second is there is assistance for them to get flights to get home. Next up. Military. Just like in the Philippines, the military in Canada has played an essential part in this time of pandemic. One po is they made sure that the supplies have been mobilized to all the areas, particularly in the northern provinces. Second, if there is shortage po ng healthcare workers, they made sure na magkaroon din po yung mga areas na kulang. Okay. Next is helping people who use substances. Of course, the government hasn't forgotten about them. There's a specific support given to them, shelter, allowances, and food. Public education. The government has made sure that everybody in Canada has an access to the right information. So they have given constant updates on social media. They've also given updates on the Canadian website, which is canada.ca, which I think for you who are coming to Canada should visit. It's www.canada.ca. Research and technology has also been tapped. It is because, as we know, a lot of countries and companies have been gearing up with producing the vaccine and treatment. So it's same thing goes in Canada. Collaboration. Well, in the Philippines, we have IATF, all right, a collaboration of different government agencies. Same thing goes in Canada, but we call it SAC, which is Special Advisory Committee. Ang bumubuo po ng Special Advisory Committee are the health ministers of the 10 provinces and 3 territories of Canada. Next slide po. Clinical trial sponsorship. Okay. For the information of everyone, the development of vaccine is a long-term process, right? So the Canadian government has called sponsorship or called for sponsorship for those pharmaceutical companies and research institutes who wish to do testing as well and trials. Last is drug and medical supply monitoring. The government has been constantly connecting with the pharmaceutical companies to ensure na wala pong shortage in any part of Canada. Next slide. Okay. Let us talk about specific government assistance to permanent residents and citizens. First is CERB or CERB, that stands for Canada Emergency Response Benefit. This is a financial support to those who are employed and self-employed Canadians and PRs affected by COVID. This will enable you to receive $2,000 for a 4-week period if you are eligible. And there's only one way to apply for it, and they have an online platform. So you don't need to visit any government agency for this. Next spot. Next is emergency care benefit that will enable residents and citizens up to $900, that will enable citizens to receive $900 bi-weekly for up to 15 weeks. The budget for emergency care benefit is $5 billion. And this is specifically for workers who are not eligible for EI. EI is employment insurance. This is actually one of the deductions that Canadians and residents get from their salaries, and EI will shield you from unemployment. Third is childcare support, specifically po sa mga parents na nanonood dyan who are heading to Canada. Please know that you are eligible for childcare benefit if you have kids 17 years old and below. Before the pandemic, the parents would usually receive around $5,600 per child annually. But because of COVID-19, the government has decided to increase it by $300 per child as of May 2020 update. Next slide. Okay, farmers and food supply industry. There is what we call Canadian Emergency Business Account that provides loans for farmers to increase their produce. So there will be enough food supply across the country. Budget for this is $670 million. Farmers can apply for loans that are interest-free. Next spot. Students, okay. For parents who have kids entering elementary and high school, please know that education is free in Canada if you opt for public education. But as for students who are heading to college or universities, for you to pay the tuition and all the expenses, you are eligible for a student loan. That's what we call, and grants. So the government usually provides, or the provincial government usually provides loans to students so they can pay for their tuitions. But at this point, due to COVID-19, some aren't able to do so. So student loans can receive a 6-month interest-free reprieve, meaning pwedeng madelay yung payments without interest. Also, for elementary and high school, school reopening varies per province, as discussed earlier. And for those provinces who are opting to learning online or doing classes online, the learning tools have been distributed to eligible kids, meaning iPads and other tools have been given. Next up. Eligible businesses, of course. Same thing goes in the Philippines. A lot of small businesses and even big businesses have suffered due to COVID-19. Now, in Canada, there has been a deferred WSIB. It stands for Workplace Safety and Insurance Board Payments. Ito po ay type of insurance that small business owners pay regularly, but at this point, it has been deferred. Also, electricity bills for small businesses and residential and residents have been made affordable since the start of the pandemic. And also for those who have concerns with rentals, CECRA or Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance has been created for support. Pausing commercial evictions, meaning in Canada, hindi po pwedeng magpaalis ng tenants in this time of pandemic. And last is tax relief. Also for small businesses, they have been provided this support. Indigenous groups. For some of you na nanonood who have been to our office, we've learned about history of Canada, and we know that First Nations, Inuits, and Métis are the first Canadian settlers, and they have been given a total of $285 million additional funding in the time of pandemic. Next po. Okay. Let me give you a detailed information about our services. So Pathways to Canada is a pre-arrival service provider. We provide comprehensive preparation program that equips Filipinos with right knowledge, mindset, expectations, and goal setting before landing in Canada. Now, there's a long list of the workshops and orientations that we do back in our office. Next slide po. For pre-arrival, this is made available in person and online. But right now po, since we are on MECQ, everything is being provided online until further notice. Okay, for those who are eligible for these services, you may join us for the following orientations. One is airport and landing procedures. Two is Canada's history and geography. We also provide province-specific orientations. If you're heading to British Columbia, Alberta, Manitoba, there are specific modules for you. Also, we'll be discussing your first 2 weeks in Canada, ano ang mga kailangan yung ma-accomplish, and what are the forms that are required to do so. Also, we provide information on Canada's educational system. This is quite helpful for those parents who are enrolling their kids in Canada because there is a huge difference in how we do it here in the Philippines. Next is career readiness. This includes crafting your Canadian-style resume, your cover letter, and we also do a little practice on your job interview. Next is cross-cultural parenting for parents who have kids with them in heading to Canada. Also, we have another group for the youth. You can express your concerns and you can actually get help on dealing with problems of youth in Canada. Next is taxes and benefits, the last but not the least, as discussed by Mr. Cayetano a while ago. But when you come to our office or when you connect with us online, you will be given a more detailed orientation on this. Now, after the pre-arrival orientation, once you land successfully in Canada, we will give you instructions on how to do successful settlement and what organizations to approach. Okay, next slide. We also work closely with organizations in British Columbia, Alberta, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland and Labrador, Prince Edward Island, and the Canadian territories. All right. Our headquarters is in British Columbia, but don't worry if you're heading to other provinces and areas. It's because we do have organizations similar to us where we can connect you with them. Next po. All right, so there are different ways and platforms that you can connect with us. Our webpage is www.pathwaystocanada.net. Also, we are quite active on Facebook. That's Pathways to Canada Inc. or INC. You can also send us a message or call us on our mobile, which is 0999-105-2696. And our office landline is 790-4054. However, due to MECQ guidelines, we are not able to come to the office as of the moment. So we're actually opening platforms using mobile and Facebook. Okay, so yun lang po. Maraming salamat sa opportunity and we wish everyone the best.
Okay.
I'm giving the floor back to Paul. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Yula. Now we will go ahead for our open forum. For Sir Mike, there's a question for you.
Yes.
May we know how much money should we bring to Canada to start a new life?
Yes. I was trying to wrap my head around that. You know, it's very difficult to give an answer about how much money so that you're comfortable. But do not forget, uh, we viewed a video earlier where the facilitator had mentioned you stay lean and you don't spend unnecessarily. So to do that, I just wanted to give you an idea, for example, of rent. Rent is about $1,600 to $2,000 a month. For a family of about 4 people, grocery per month will run you about $250 a month. And other things like bus pass, etc. These are nominal fees as well. If you're going to ask me how much you need to have for the month, I would say, in order to be comfortable, about 3,500 to 4,000 a month. Okay. Now, having said all of that, I'm actually hoping that you do manage to find employment within a few months, like a 3-month period or 4-month period. And so if we targeted about $4,000 a month, I think that would be a good start and you'd be comfortable in Canada. Thank you, Paul.
Another question, Sir Mike, for you.
Yeah.
Will it affect my credit standing in Canada if I have an unsettled accounts in my credit cards here in the Philippines?
Okay. So, of course, if you're talking about a credit card like a MasterCard or a Visa, I mean, these have international reaches. So I'm saying that if the outstanding is significant, of course, they're going to find this. The banks will find this. If it were just a small credit card, say one of the grocery store credit cards, or something to that effect, likely the banks will not find it in the credit bureau. But the larger credit cards, they will actually see it, and yes, they will have some impact on your credit rating here in Canada. Thank you.
Okay, for the last question, Sir Mike. Does the Canadian government give subsidy to those who are first-time buyers, owners of houses and apartments?
Actually, first-time home buyers are given a small down payment requirement. First-time home buyers usually qualify for a 10% down payment. Okay, so unlike Australia, where they give you half the amount, you don't find that in Canada. But they will push you along and help you get that home if that's what you want to do. They will push you along and help you get that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sir Mike.
Thank you, Paul.
For Alan, questions for CFO. Why do we need to go through CFO's PDOS or GCP before leaving the country?
That is a requirement by our government. So all immigrants should be registered. And sabi nga natin, if a worker, just like an OFW registers at POEA, same likewise with the permanent residents. Kasi ang advantage din ng registered po tayo, it means meron tayong record and we are going out of the country legally speaking. And of course, one advantage din ng meron tayong registration with the CFO, in any eventuality na may nangyari sa atin sa ibang bansa, the government can provide help. Like for example, yung nangyari recently sa Beirut, no? So the government can act quickly to help those people or our citizens overseas na in danger or need help kasi meron silang record na iniwan sa ating country.
Okay, thank you, Alan. We have questions for Yula. Which province in Canada is the best place to live in terms of cost of living and education for children?
All right. I would be biased if I specifically mention one province, but generally Canada is a family-oriented and family-friendly country. And if you're planning and eligible to make it as your second home, you're geared towards a good standard of living. Okay. But let's go back to the video earlier of Mr. Greg. It all depends on the location that you prefer and the lifestyle that you choose. But basically, if you wish to have, or if you're planning to have a simple lifestyle, um, a big city is not a good place for you. But if you're heading towards your career, specific career goals, probably a big city will be great for you. Now, you have 10 provinces to choose from kung sino man po yung nagtanong noon. But generally, Canada is a family-friendly country. That's all I can say.
Funny, any additional? Which
It's
province is the best?
Which province is the best? Yes. I would also, yeah, I'm just going to support the answer of Miss Yula. As to which province is the best, it would be depending on the lifestyle that you're going to choose. It's one of the best countries you can start over with or start over from. So if you're going to ask specifically which province, we are talking about a good and friendly country where you can exercise your work-life balance. But of course, Mr. Greg said, wala pa rin tatalo pag babalik tayo sa ating sinilangan.
Sir Mike, any additional?
Yeah,
Which
thank you,
province
Paul.
is the best?
Thank you for that question. I live in BC, so I'm partial to British Columbia. I think we have the best weather. This one I do know. And for people that love snow, we had a video that showed a lot of snow. I think that was Ontario. So for those that love snow, they can go to Ontario. But as far as affordability goes, as far as being able to land on your feet quickly, I think that the province of Ontario will have better opportunities to find a job quickly. Not that BC doesn't have it, not that Alberta doesn't have it, but let's face it, that's the capital of Canada. And so you have that opportunity in Toronto, and you have a lot of family support in the province of Ontario. The other provinces also have this, but for some reason, Ontario provides just a little bit more compared to the other provinces. Thank you, Paul.
Okay. Another question. What is the current employment situation today in Canada, considering we are still under this pandemic?
Well, let me give you just few details about it, facts about it. In 2019, the unemployment rate in Canada was 5.67%. Now, due to COVID-19, the unemployment currently is 7.47%. So it has gone up high, as we experienced the same thing in the Philippines.
Okay, thank you, Yula. For our last question, what are the programs and projects of Multicultural Helping House Society to help those migrants affected by this pandemic?
Okay, if I can respond to that, Sir Paul. At this point in time, as you know, and Yula went through a series of slides as to what the government is providing right now for the pandemic. These are benefits that go across Canada: rental subsidy, wage subsidy, and so forth. And so these kinds of things are actually available to the residents, the permanent residents of Canada. And so there's a lot of things right now that is being offered without so much as being even asked, pay this or pay that. A good example would be hospitalization. You know that hospitalization here in Canada, the medical premiums are free for BC, for Ontario, and some other provinces. So this allows you to access some of the health benefits. Perhaps you need to go to the hospital for testing, or perhaps you need to stay in the hospital a few days. This is all free. And this is provided by the government. This is courtesy of the government of Canada. So there's a number of things that's happening right now. And unfortunately, this pandemic has some employers actually closing down. One type of industry that is very much affected is restaurants, very much affected. But that's also the same in Manila, very much affected. But here in, you'd be happy to know that here in Canada, we are slowly getting back on our feet, and the curve has flattened, although there's a little bit of a surge, if you will, but the curve has flattened, and the economy is now starting to start turning once again. So hopefully we can recover quickly, and hopefully by Christmas, we should be back to our regular business. So I am hoping that we should reach that stage very quickly. Government has been very, very much supportive, whether it's the federal government or the provincial government in each of the provinces. Thank you, Paul.
Okay, thank you, Mike. That ends our open forum. To our speaker, is there anything else you wanted to add or to say?
Would you like to speak first?
Yula?
Okay, well, I would just like to impart to those who are coming to Canada that you should acquire the right tools, the right resources, and the right mindset. Okay, it is not a bed of roses. You might be wondering, or you might be thinking, the Four Seasons is quite fun, and that's all that matters. Clean air, everything that you can enjoy. That comes with living in Canada. But without the right mindset, without the right preparation, these won't be achieved. So for those eligible immigrants or eligible individuals who are coming to Canada, please have the right preparation. And while you are still here in the Philippines, we are on MECQ. You're quite free to send us a message or connect with us for more orientation sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, Yula. Connie?
Yes, if I'm going to share about the interviews we had before with our immigrants, I would also want our Filipino migrants to always set your expectation. I understand starting your life all over again in Canada, no matter how you're successful in the Philippines, it is challenging. It might be challenging, but always focus on your goal. And I think this is the most important thing, yung lagi nating pinapaalala, we are Filipinos, and yes, huwag natin kalimutan kung saan tayo nanggaling. Yun lang po.
Okay. Sir Mike, any last message?
Thank you so much, Paul. I want to tell everybody the panel around this webinar, the thoughts in formulating those sentences only demonstrated our unique ability to communicate well in English. And this is a plus for us. This is something that employers here really treasure, is the ability to communicate in English. There is one thing that I need to tell folks, though, is that please continue to develop those communication skills, because in addition to be able to speak English in their terms, if you will, in the way they pronounce their words and sentence structure, the one thing that's missing is that the English language here, anyways, is spoken with a lot of idioms, a lot of, shall we say, expressions, and to a certain degree, a lot of sarcasm. So continue to develop that, and I think we'll be fine. But I just wanted to tell everybody that, you know what, Filipinos are well well in demand here as employees. Employers really treasure Filipinos. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Mike. And last, Alan.
Thank you, Paul, for organizing the webinar. And I hope we have imparted knowledge to our listeners to this webinar. Ang aming mensahe lang po sa Commission on Filipinos Overseas, we're here to support your dream of migrating to another country. But we want you to remember that migration is a choice. Hindi natin pinipilit ang ilan na umalis sa ating bansa or iwanan ng ating bansa. But if that's the decision you made, the CFO here likely to support you. And of course, by registering at the CFO, of course, we are providing immigrant services, even nandun na sila sa ibang bansa. If ever, whatever happens to them, CFO is here to support you. Sabi nga natin, with the pandemic right now, the show must go on pa rin. Kaya we provide innovation to register and make the procedure quickly for our immigrants here in the Philippines. So yun lang po. Maraming salamat and stay safe.
Thank you, Alan. On behalf of Secretary Francisco Acosta, Undersecretary Astrabel Pimentel Naik, and Director Ivy Mirabales, we would like to thank you, Sir Mike, Connie, and Yula, for always supporting all the CFO activities, even in time of pandemic. We hope to continue working with you on another webinar. So this is just the first part of the webinar series the CFO will be implementing. We wish to work with you for post-arrival service in Canada. We wish you good health and safety, Mike, Connie, and Yula. Just one more quick announcement. Please let us show the ugnayan slide. We are inviting all Filipinos in Japan. Lahat po na kababayan natin sa Japan, magkakaroon po kami ng free webinar entitled CFO Online Ugnayan sa Japan on August 22, 2020 from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. To join, please use the registration link in the poster. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us this afternoon, and we will see you in our next webinar series. Magandang hapon po.
Bye.